Deep in Central Africa, there was a sanctuary, a place hidden away from the noise of the world, where animals who had suffered at the hands of humans were given a chance to heal. Among these creatures was a silverback gorilla named Kuba. He was enormous, his muscles rippling under thick, dark fur, and his eyes held a deep, intelligent calm. Every movement Kuba made was deliberate, measured, as if he understood the weight of his own power. The handlers called him the General because he commanded respect without ever raising his voice. He followed a strict routine, moving through his enclosure with quiet authority, a ruler in his domain. Then, a quiet girl named Lena arrived with her father, a scientist visiting the sanctuary. Lena was only 8 years old, small and soft-spoken, with wide, curious eyes that seemed to see more than others did. Despite warnings from her father and the staff to stay away, Lena found herself drawn to Kuba. One early morning, just as the sun began to rise, she slipped away from the safety of her group and walked alone to Kuba's enclosure. Without a sound, she sat down, opened a notebook, and began to draw. Kuba noticed her immediately. Instead of reacting with the aggression the handlers expected, he remained still and watched her silently. Day after day, Lena returned, always quiet, always alone, and each time Kuba edged closer, his calm gaze never leaving her. There was no growling, no signs of threat, just a strange, steady silence growing between the two. Something unspoken had begun, a bond that neither the rules of the sanctuary nor the instincts of the wild could explain. Lena's visits didn't go unnoticed for long. The sanctuary staff began to whisper among themselves, exchanging worried glances. Gorillas were wild animals, unpredictable and powerful, and the rules were clear. No direct contact, no unsupervised visits. But despite the warnings, Lena returned every day, drawn to Kuba like a magnet. Each time she approached, she sat quietly just beyond the fence, never trying to touch or feed him. Instead, she observed, studying the way he moved, the way he looked at her with those deep, thoughtful eyes. Kuba, in turn, seemed to recognize her presence. His usual stern, commanding demeanor softened just enough to show curiosity. The bond between them grew slowly, wordless but undeniable. Lena began mimicking some of Kuba's gestures, tilting her head, tapping her chest, and to everyone's surprise, Kuba responded by mimicking back. It was as if they had found a secret language, one made of silence and movement rather than words. The sanctuary's rules were strict for a reason, but Kuba was breaking them all in his own way. He wasn't just tolerating Lena, he was choosing to engage with her. When other gorillas would growl or charge at visitors, Kuba remained calm and still whenever Lena was near. Lena's father grew increasingly uneasy. He understood the danger, the risks involved. He tried to keep her away, reminding her that gorillas were wild and that Kuba was no exception. But Lena's connection to Kuba seemed stronger than fear or caution. The staff debated what to do, torn between protecting the girl and respecting the sanctuary's protocols. Yet every time they watched Kuba and Lena, it was clear that something extraordinary was happening, something no one had seen before. Little did they know, this fragile trust was about to be put to the ultimate test, one that would force Kuba to break every rule he had ever lived by, all to protect the one girl who had captured his attention and his heart. One afternoon, dark clouds rolled over the sanctuary, and the air grew heavy with the promise of a storm. The rain came down fast and fierce, turning paths into rivers and loosening the earth beneath the fences. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the trees. A landslide had struck the edge of the sanctuary, sending rocks and dirt tumbling toward the enclosures. Panic spread quickly among the animals and the staff. People shouted orders trying to guide the gorillas to safety. But in the chaos, Lena, who had wandered close to the fence as usual, was caught off guard. The ground beneath her feet began to shift, and before anyone could react, the fencing near her collapsed with a thunderous crash. Lena found herself trapped in a dangerous no-man's land, vulnerable and exposed just as the gorillas were breaking free from their pens. Other gorillas charged through the broken barrier, frightened and confused. Then, something unexpected happened. Kuba, the mighty silverback, stepped forward. Instead of joining the frantic rush of his troop or fleeing the chaos, he moved directly toward Lena. He positioned himself between her and the younger, agitated gorillas that were closest, his massive frame a shield against potential harm. Kuba's eyes were sharp and focused, but his demeanor was calm and protective. He growled low and deep, not at Lena, but at the other gorillas, warning them back. His usual command over his troop turned into a fierce guardianship, as if he understood that Lena was in danger and no one else would protect her. The staff watched in stunned silence. They prepared to intervene, to sedate Kuba if necessary, but he stood his ground. He wasn't aggressive toward Lena. He was her protector. For the first time, Kuba defied every instinct, every rule of the wild. In that moment of chaos and fear, he chose to protect a human child. And in doing so, he changed everything. Kuba's decision to protect Lena came at a great cost. The other gorillas, confused and unsettled by his unusual behavior, began to avoid him. His position as the leader was challenged, not because he was weak, but because he had broken the unspoken rules of their society. He no longer joined the troop's daily routines. He stopped eating with them and instead spent hours sitting alone near the broken fence, as if waiting for something or someone. The sanctuary staff were equally baffled. Kuba's protective instinct toward Lena was unlike anything they had ever seen. Usually, wild animals react to humans with suspicion or fear, but Kuba's calm and watchful presence suggested something deeper, a bond that transcended natural behavior. Lena, meanwhile, was safe, but deeply shaken by the incident. She was forbidden from returning to the sanctuary for her own protection. Yet, even from afar, she continued to reach out, sending letters, drawings, and messages to the sanctuary staff. Though they couldn't be together, the connection between Kuba and Lena remained strong. The sanctuary became a place of quiet waiting, and Kuba, the once proud leader of his troop, became a silent guardian, standing watch over the place where Lena had been. His sacrifice was clear. He had given up everything to keep her safe. And though the world might never fully understand the depth of his loyalty, Kuba's story became a powerful reminder of the unexpected ways love and protection can cross the boundaries of species and nature itself. Years passed, and life at the sanctuary slowly returned to normal, though Kuba's quiet vigil never ended. He grew older, his movements slower, but his eyes still held that same deep intelligence and calm strength. Lena had grown too. Now a young woman, she had dedicated her life to protecting wildlife, inspired by the bond she once shared with Kuba. When she finally returned to the sanctuary, it was with a heart full of hope and memories she could never forget. The moment Kuba saw her again, something shifted. Despite the years apart, he recognized her immediately. Slowly, he approached the fence and reached out a massive hand. Lena placed her own hand against his, their fingers nearly touching through the barrier, a silent farewell between two souls who had changed each other forever. In those final moments, Kuba seemed to find peace. Days later, he passed away quietly, as if he had been waiting for that last connection. The sanctuary mourned the loss of a guardian unlike any other, a protector who had broken every rule to keep one girl safe. Kuba's story lives on, not just in the sanctuary, but in the hearts of all who hear it. A reminder that sometimes the most profound bonds can form where no one expects them, and that courage and love can transcend even the wildest boundaries. Because sometimes the most human heart beats in the chest of a gorilla.